Purdue President Mitch Daniels back on campus and talking to the media after a fatal shooting yesterday on campus. Good evening, I'm Gina Quattrochi. Thanks for joining us. Jeff Smith has the night off. We want to take you right to that news conference happening live at Purdue.
It is not exaggerated to say that this campus has a tremendous sense of spirit and mutuality about it. And it was literally like losing a family member. I've learned a lot about Andrew Bolt in the last 24 hours, and he was a remarkable young man. And terrible loss. What he could have been. It's very sad.
There's been some concern coming up that some of the professors may not have handled this situation with a lot of care. There was some concern. There was a story in the student newspaper that says, some of the students were told to go back to class even though there was a lot of concern about the shooting. Is there going to be any kind of investigation into looking into some of those?
Well, we're going to look over everything. I've just come from an hour-plus briefing with everybody, law enforcement, first responders, the communications people, and we discussed this. So it's nothing to be said at this time. There were hundreds and hundreds of classes going on. It's very clear that in virtually all of those this was handled well, but in some cases it wasn't. I'm sure no one feels worse about that now than any faculty member who might have been thoughtless.
What's your priority over the coming days?
To demonstrate continue demonstrating the depth of our care for the Bolt family, and to take apart this event, see what, if anything, can be learned from it. You can always do better. Now, I will say that based on the first round of briefings and questions I've been asking, that in many respects, at least, it's hard to know how you could have done better from the actual event to the capture of the suspect, 3 minutes, and people on the scene immediately, and a perimeter set up. So some of the basics clearly were done very, very well, but we want to walk through everything. How well did the alert system work? Are there ways to improve the technology? Were people well enough trained to know how to handle the alerts and the requirements that they impose?
What advice do you have for students returning to class tomorrow?
Say a prayer for Andrew. Study hard.
Have you reached out to the families yet of the students involved?
The answer is yes, but I don't have a lot more to say about that right now.
What were some of the topics in today's meeting with the first responders and community notifications department?
Well, we just everybody who had a hand in, I wanted to hear it from their side. I wanted to see the facts as we understand them now. But clearly, we started with the response. Then we went on to the alert system, the multiple systems we have. Then we talked about the role of faculty, staff, and others. How effective or not were our communications? Seemed pretty clear to me. We could make some improvements there and help you do your jobs a little better. But we'll be back at this on a regular basis. I gave the group some questions for follow-up. I gave the group some assignments, and we'll be back together in a few days when they've had a chance to work on them.
You wanted to meet with students, and you're doing so today and tonight. What do you want to tell them? What do you want to say?
I do more listening than talking. I eat here and at the other residence halls once or twice a week, and at other places on campus. It's just something I do for fun and something I do for learning. But you can bet I'll spend most of the day and tomorrow. I had expected to spend tomorrow traveling back from South America, so my schedule's relatively clear. I'm going to spend a lot of time moving around the classroom buildings, especially engineering, food courts, maybe go to the gym. Just again, I just feel that I want to hear from students. I just talked to a bunch of them out there, and they're handling this very, very well. Everybody's deeply saddened, but also we're strong people here at Purdue.
How
What about any
important?
changes to safety or security or any, I guess?
Oh, way too soon to know what, if any.
What is your message to students returning to class tomorrow who may feel a bit apprehensive maybe about that?
Well, there's no reason that they should, but if that's the way they feel, then we want them to feel reassured. And but that's a good reason why I'm here, and will be other places, sort of getting their sense. The dozen or two that I've probably met just in the short time I've been back on campus, or back in stride, I would say. I know some of the folks with whom I met on arrival said that they get a sense from students and staff that there is a strong interest in a return to normalcy. But that, I'm sure there are as many different, there's as wide a range of emotions and reactions here as you'd expect in a place with 50,000 people.
What was your response to the candlelight ceremony last night? I'm sure you've seen footage and pictures of that.
It's magnificent. And of course, my deep regret was I could only participate by writing the statement and having it read. Would very much, of course, have wanted to be there personally, but the students who organized it, it was such a Boilermaker thing to do, and to do it just that fast and pull it together that well, and I'm just really proud of our students. It was, as you know, a student-initiated, student-led activity.
Mr. President, you wanted to make college affordable.
Yeah.
You're not alone shooting today at the University of Oklahoma. How do you make it safer?
Well, I think through tragedies vastly worse than the tragedy we just experienced, an awful lot has been learned. And the systems that operated here yesterday, we probably will find ways to enhance them, speed them, or use them better, but they didn't exist a few years ago. So I think it's really important to say that this campus is an extraordinarily safe place. I'll tell you, your question reminds me, the very first of many, many visits I made up here to try to prepare myself for the job, somewhat as a signal, I asked that the very first briefing or the very first day be on safety. So the public safety director and the fire chief and the police chief and all the people involved in that, that's how I spent the very first time. I just wanted to send a little message that that's the first order of business, and it always will be with us. And if you looked at the statistics, and think of this as, again, there are 50,000 people just on the campus, 40,000 students, 10,000 staff, various kinds. It's got to be one of the safest places for 50,000 people anywhere. The statistics are stunningly low. But of course, one tragedy like yesterday is unacceptable, one too many, and so you're never going to be as error-free and perfect as you want to be.
There haven't been many updates today about, the status of the investigation. Were people waiting for you to come back to kind of a brief view about it? And when do you think?
No, I don't think they're waiting on me. Law enforcement has its own rules to follow and precautions to take, and that's all for the prosecutor and the folks in whose hands this now is. Our folks have turned over they've done the full job they were asked to do in terms of evidence and all that. So those questions all have to go to the proper authorities in town.
So what's next for you? I mean, what are you?
Huh?
Where do you go?
I'm
from
going
here?
in there and eat. I got my card right here. So.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for a good job. Best I can tell at long distance. You guys did a tough job. Something like this happens. Get the word out fast.
That was Purdue President Mitch Daniels making his first comments on campus since returning to campus from Columbia. Of course, President Daniels expressing his grief and his condolences to the family of Andrew Bolt for the passing of Andrew Bolt. He said the next order of business is to look over how the processes were handled, if anything needs to be changed, and if anything needs to be worked on. President Daniels says it will. And when asked what the message to Purdue students is, he said to say a prayer for Andrew, his family, and to study hard.